You are getting ready to watch something unique in the entire world.
What if this was a perfect world?
Imagine a world where trans was completely understood.
Imagine a world where we were respected just for being who we are.
Imagine a world where we are not targets of violence and discrimination.
Imagine a world where radical conservatives didn't use transgender issues to try and win elections.
To understand this perfect world, it looks like we will need translation. Good evening and welcome to Translation, the world's first trans show by the community educating our allies. It's 9 p.m. Thursday, July 8th. I'm Tony Lima, CEO of Ariana Center, Trans Latina, Florida. We are proud to sponsor this groundbreaking broadcast, coming to you from South Florida to our American and worldwide audience. We need your support. Please help us, as this is the first show in the world to include a cast of trans voices. And speaking of those trans voices, let's meet our cast. Let's welcome Misty Eyez. She is the Director of Transgender Services, Women's Services, and Training Education for SunServe, one of South Florida's most important LGBTQ+ nonprofit service providers. She is a highly celebrated and award-winning entertainer, MC, and journalist. Good evening, Misty.
Good evening, Tony. Thank you for having me. Now, let's welcome anchor Schaffer Zaret. She is a trans activist, panel speaker, and director of development of Pride Lines, South Florida's oldest direct services nonprofit organization for LGBTQ youth. Her values are based on service to her community in project management and coalition building. Please welcome Schaffer Zaret.
Hi, Misty. Thank you so much for having me.
That was lackluster. I'm going to say her whole name. Schaffer Zaret.
Yes, I love when you say my name. And now let's welcome anchor Rajee Narinesingh, a famous transgender activist, actress, author, mystic, and reality TV personality. She is of Asian Indian descent from Trinidad and Tobago. She has appeared on more than 35 television shows across the world. Welcome, Rajee.
Thank you. Great to be here. Let's welcome anchor Camille Lewis. She is a speaker, advocate, facilitator. She is one of Florida's strongest trans activist voices as a woman of color. Good evening, Camille.
I am woman, hear me roar. Let's welcome Ariana Lint, well-known international Latinx trans activist, openly living with HIV, and president and founder for Ariana Center. Ariana Center is one of the most important trans-focused service and advocacy organizations in our nation. The nonprofit focuses on the services for trans women of color, trans men, and gender nonconforming people in Florida and in Puerto Rico and the South. Ariana is also one of the foremost advocates across the country focused on ending the HIV epidemic. Good evening, Ariana.
Camille, thank you. How you doing, everybody? I'm so happy and excited to see what's going on in this show tonight.
On that note, so good evening again. Let's dive right into translation. At Translation, we will follow amusing social media trans stories. One is #TransLOL. These are tweets, memes, or other interesting moments created by trans people about the trans community. Tonight's Trans People Are Funny #TransLOL is called You're Saying It Wrong. What do you think, ladies?
I don't get it.
Who's a Harry Potter fan in the house?
Me.
Come on, Misty, tell us.
Well, there's a scene in the movie when they're saying spells, like, I don't know, like abracadabra, and they're like, you're saying it wrong. It's abracadabra. But what this meme is saying is it's not defending the biological sex. They're talking about the children in sports. Like, I'm trying to protect biological sex in the girls because the boys are competing. And she's like, it's not pronounced defending biological sex. It's pronounced transphobia. She's making fun of, well, the meme is making fun of the people and saying they're transphobic.
Misty's gonna be our meme whisperer. Like every week we
Call
just
her
need her.
Mr.
Yes, please,
I didn't
thank
get
you,
it.
because now I get it.
And the
Okay.
more,
Hey, what do you think now?
And the more you say biological sex, I'm like, do I have biological sex?
Your biological sex is what the doctor said
Like,
you
damn,
were when
do
you
I
were in
have
a
biological?
position.
Like, is that a position?
No, it's what the doctor
I find that
assigned
in the
you.
Kama Sutra.
You know the doctor goes, "Wah!" and the baby cries.
Well, I'm pretty
It's a
sure. I'm
boy,
pretty sure I
it's
had like
a
an A
girl.
flat. I was up there. I've never. I was never one of those deep voice individuals.
Liza Minnelli.
Lies.
Lies and deception, girl.
That's you, Misty.
Oh, I thought I was waiting.
Oh my God.
No wrapping up that segment. If we are going to truly explore the trans community, we must also focus on the news. We will bring you the most important news of the week on our segment called Trans is the News. Trans is the News. Marjorie Taylor Greene claims that teaching about gay people is emotional child abuse. Watch this.
I have been in counseling as long as I can remember because I was adopted from foster care at age 4. The things I have learned along the way are being challenged now when my science or math teacher is trying to teach me how to be emotionally. And why are they teaching me about sexuality and how to identify? I don't want to hear about sexuality during class in front of other students because that should be a private thing. This should be left in the homes, and between students and counselors or one-on-one conversations. This has been a very traumatic part of my past, and the more the school focuses on sexuality, the more it affects me and my anxiety. It leaves confusion and frustration in my mind, and I don't know how to deal with that because they only focus on more content I feel hurt about. For example, I was told I have white privilege. How can a child born in an abusive drug and alcohol abuse home who lost her entire biological family that has experienced all forms of abuse and neglect be privileged? If you found a child at 15 months in a home with holes in the floor eating cat poop, would you consider them privileged? Just asking because when I was told that, I was so upset I cried myself to sleep. We have to stop the stereotypes and bitterness towards groups because it gets us nowhere but divided. I have no friends and can say HSE again has failed me. They are trying to divide us into 2 groups instead of bringing us together as one. Every day I felt less and less valued as a student and failed every class this past year. Academics are not important here, only how we feel and making sure we learn about sexuality, political topics, and emotional topics that teachers may or may not be able to handle, especially with trauma children like myself. I'm happy to move on and begin a fresh start and hope that this next school will love me for me and challenge me to grow in areas that I am good at. I just want people to love one another, and the way we are doing it is wrong. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That's the way to bring a mood down. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene shared a video of traumatized girl testifying in front of a school board that she's been taught to hate white people and how to turn transgender. Yesterday, as part of her ongoing smear campaign against the LGBTQ community, the Congress member claimed that teaching children about gay and transgender people is emotional child abuse. The girl in the video is obviously distressed as her mother hovers over her shoulder while the youngster reads the speech, which includes several wild claims about what she is being taught in school. The internet has a quick response to point out that the Congresswoman's history of repeating outlandish lies and anti-LGBTQ talking points. They also chastise Greene for once again using a child as a political pawn.
What do we think about this, Lee?
That is complete BS. Like, we can't teach you how to be anything but your authentic self. If someone is teaching you about the diverse community of boy, girl, transgender, intersex, non-binary, listen with that. I'm not teaching you to cast a spell on you or make you feel as if I'm trying to turn you into being something that you're not. Because if you know that you're not, you're not.
Exactly. Well, I mean, you know, sex education has been in school forever. I mean, and I think there's a difference. Like, to me, if a child is learning about transgender and intersex or whatever, it makes them more open-minded to realize, okay, there's other types of people. It's like it's like me saying when I was in school, if we were talking about heterosexual, you know, cisgendered sex, it would have changed me. I'm transgender. And I sat in a classroom where, you know, I pretty much, that's what we learned about. It was like, you know, heterosexual sexuality. And did that impact me? No. So
To drive that point further, it would be like a parent saying, I don't want my children to learn about handicapped people. If
Yeah.
you put up a wheelchair symbol on the wall, what if
Exactly.
my child wants to be handicapped now? What about this? Talking about a community that is other than yourself is not forcing that agenda, first of all.
Right.
You're just exposing people that are different from you. When you are born transgender, you are born with a brain that does not match your assigned sex at birth.
And you know that.
You
know.
might not know that right away, but you do figure it out. And if you guys know Marjorie Green, she is the one that keeps sitting in front of the sign that says there are only two genders. Well, ma'am, your ignorance is showing. What about XXY people? 1 in 500 people are born with 3 chromosomes, XXY. What is that? Is that male or female? Because you're wrong. It's not just male and female. And also her racism. Whoever wrote that speech for that little
Because
girl,
she didn't write that herself.
completely racist.
Well, I think
She
that's
didn't
the
write that
tragic thing, ladies. The tragic thing is that this child is obviously being used as a political pawn.
100%.
Yeah.
And her trauma is coming from everywhere else except what she's claiming
Her
it to
trauma
come
is
from.
coming
It's
from
true.
the poverty
Absolutely.
that she described.
Yes.
But unfortunately, even as a white person, I grew up dirt poor with 7 kids eating cat food or pancakes. Every meal, pancakes. Every single meal. But walking into a room as a Caucasian, yes, still privileged.
Right. Yes,
Yeah.
because it's the complexion for the connection. People don't realize that privilege does not mean money.
Oh my God, that's a great point. That's so true. My God. Trans is in the news. We're going to go to the next story.
As the plane has been trying to
Good
land
job,
the last 10
Rajee.
minutes.
Yes. Well, I mean, I could go on and on about this topic, but anyway,
Well, thank you
more
for moving us
topics.
along, Rajee.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we have more topics to talk about. Open your minds, people, please. So, trans is in the news. U.S. to add X gender marker on passports. Wow. For the first time ever, the federal government will allow non binary and intersex people to obtain IDs and passports with an X gender marker instead of M or and F. The policy also removes the requirement that transgender people provide proof of gender transition from a physician, allowing gender diverse Americans to self-identify. According to a source, according to a source within the administration, non-binary Americans are expected to be able to obtain the X gender marker by the end of the year. The new rule marks the most substantial change to federal documents for transgender people since 2011, when the Obama administration put in place a policy to allow trans Americans to update their passport. Phenomenal.
I
Phenomenal.
love it. I
Phenomenal.
love it. As a person who gives services to non-binary people, I think that is very nice for them have that option in the passports, and I'm so happy for the binary community for this.
Yes.
I just hope it doesn't cause ignorant question like, what does X mean? Like, you know,
Yeah.
Male, female, other.
Yeah, I know. For us, we know what it means. But you know, when you have those certain individuals that read your documents and they want to, you know, go and start asking crazy questions.
But think about it. This is big.
It's big,
And I
and I'm
know.
for it. I'm for it.
And I know the non-binary community, they are cheering. Because
Mm-hmm.
who would have thought that the government would have allowed us to use X as a gender marker?
Especially
Yeah.
in passports, because when Americans and when no-binary American people going to out the country, they going to educate to other country about this gender marker.
Yeah.
So this is
Excellent point.
wonderful.
And
This is major.
And it validates and allows for my friend that sat in this seat last week to finally
Yeah.
have a passport with
Gordon.
the correct gender
Yes.
marker.
Yeah, Gordon.
Yes.
Yeah, this is also one of the things I want to talk about real quick is that when Rajee was speaking, it was self-identifying. You can self-identify with the X. Right now, to change your gender, you have to get a letter from a doctor stating that you're on hormone replacement therapy. Non-binary people might not be taking hormones.
Right.
They're not transitioning to male. They're not transitioning to female. So allowing yourself to self-identify is actually major. Also, if this passes this year for the United States of America, we would be the 13th country to allow an X on your passport. And this is also major because this trumps every state. Some states won't allow certain things, but the entire country. And when you have to go to a job, you need 2 forms of ID that are government, driver's license, passport. You don't need your birth certificate
Right.
when you have
An
it.
additional safeguard.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes.
Thanks.
Trans is the news. Argentina passed a quota for employing transgender people. It could save lives, advocates say. Watch this.
With the announced measure, the national government guarantees the fulfillment of the 1% quota for trans workers in civil service jobs that President Alberto Fernandez established in the Decree 721 in 2020.
For us, as a public policy from the Ministry of Women, Genders and Diversity, we consider it vital to have some kind of response. In the context of the pandemic, that reveals the access to employment from trans people, and especially considering that this response is a comprehensive response, that it is related to social security, access to and permanence in the workplace, and of course, access to other rights related to educational and training aspects of employment.
Transgender activists in Argentina are celebrating a huge legislative win. Last week, at the tail end of Pride Month, the country's Senate overwhelmingly approved the bill for the trans employment quota. The law, which builds on a presidential decree from 2020, requires that at least 1% of the positions in the public sector be reserved for transgender people. It also issues an Employment Non-Discrimination Act and establishes economic incentives for private companies that hire trans employees.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Get your check. Get that affirmative action. It's true.
Get your check, get it in writing. Pay your bills.
Someone was telling me that Argentina, culturally, they're pretty good with trans people. And, you think South America, but I guess it just depends on, what country it is and what's going on socially, But this is great.
And it starts to serve as a model for other countries, including this one potentially, in order to, like the article says, to save lives, because ultimately that's what it's going to do.
It is.
Trans is the news. Protest turns violent outside Los Angeles spa, featured on Tucker Carlson's show. Watch this.
Violent clashes between demonstrators and the LAPD. Officers in tactical gear pushing the crowd back off Wilshire Boulevard just before this scuffle. These demonstrators showed up to support trans rights and We Spa, a business that came under fire this week over a viral video.
It's okay for a man to go into the women's section.
A customer posted the video of her complaining that a man was in the women's section of the day spa. The employee in the video says the customer is trans and the spa follows the law in not discriminating against any trans person.
They get to make that call. If you don't like it, go to a different business. Don't harass them.
The woman who posted the video also posted about the planned protest of the spa for Saturday morning. Counter-protesters arrived earlier. SoCal Antifa tweeted its support and called for people to show up.
I think that, you should let people live their lives, and you should let trans people live their lives that they want to.
Demonstrators against trans rights showed up with signs reading "Shame on We Spa." This man calling out over a bullhorn that the crowd is on its way to hell. Several people in black attacked the man as others pulled them off him. demanding that he leave. Down the street, we found another man bleeding. Witnesses say he was hit in the head with a skateboard. LAPD moved in to separate the crowds when this shirtless man also stepped in, holding what appeared to be a chain or beads.
You guys are abominations. What?
Police put the man in handcuffs and escorted him away from the crowd.
You have 10 minutes to disperse.
By 12:30, LAPD declared unlawful assembly, and officers in tactical gear ushered the crowd off the street. Demonstrators set a dumpster on fire and screamed in the faces of officers. About 40 minutes later, the chaos appeared over.
Wow. Protesters in Los Angeles came to blows on Saturday during a planned protest in an upscale Koreatown spa that has been at the center of the controversy ever since a viral Instagram video posted on June 24th showed a woman upset that a transgender woman with a penis was allegedly naked in the female section of the spa and was allowed to be there. The video was picked up by Fox News' Tucker Carlson and quickly gained the attention of millions. A protest against We Spa was planned for Saturday morning by those who supported the woman, who complained and were against the spa's policy of protecting trans rights, according to the flyers on Instagram. But protesters who supported the spa also turned up, and the dueling factions exchanged punches in the streets, according to multiple journalists on the ground filming the interaction.
This leaves me with so many questions. My first question was, did she actually see anything, or is this a witch hunt? What trans woman is going to go out there bottomless? Period.
Exactly.
I use the women's locker room at LA Fitness. I use locker room all kinds of places, and I do not take off my panties. They are on, and I am not showing anything. And so I had a client once that was a post-operative, which is a word for sex change. And somebody complained about seeing her testicles and penis, and she proved, she's like,
I've had surgery, right?
What are you that wasn't me, about? But she clocked her in her own personal bias, said, that's a man, that's a man, that's a man. I saw her dick, whatever. But it wasn't true.
I mean, I think most of us trans women that are pre-op, we are very, very we're very, very conscious about that. Like, you know, and I'm constantly checking myself like, oh Lord, like, is anything showing, you know? But I have to be honest, even now when I go out into public, there's times that I hesitate to use the bathroom.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, oh God, like, is this going to be a scene? You know, so I'll hold it. I do it. I just do it.
I think that what happened is that people, they don't understand, because all the time when I see a transgender people in locker rooms or whatever, they say man with a penis.
Yeah.
And people, they have to understand, we are a transgender with big clit. Not penis.
That's what I call it, Ariana. My extra long clitty.
Extra long. So they have to, because a lot of people, they don't have access to medical care, to have the surgery and everything.
Surgery.
So we don't call, as a transgender, we don't call penis of myself. We call just.
But I'm at that part where I'm not accepting that I don't know what's going on. We're in a time where the world is in the palm of our hands.
Mm-hmm.
Our cell phones. You can Google. You can find out. Trans is in the headline news, trans is in movies, trans is now in our damn cartoons or whatever. So there is no escaping not knowing what a trans individual is. I'm not buying it, I'm not accepting it. But like we all have agreed, the trans woman is known for putting up her extra stuff. Like, if I just can't believe that. I think it was a witch hunt. I can't believe it, because baby, if you're not there trying to provide a little dollar in incentive to see what's going on down here, I doubt if my sister had it out swinging for advertising.
Oh, and you know what? And there's also a movement too that I've been following on Instagram and Twitter of trans women who are like, you know what? This is me. I'm not tucking it. I'm not hiding it. This is me. Yeah. I'm in a bikini at the beach. And you know what? That's a movement I'm following. I for me personally, like, this is me. This is my body. I know visibility comes with a cost. Visibility comes with potentially danger. But I don't know. That's a movement I can get behind, because you know what? As I'm navigating this kind of first year of my transition, I'll be damned if I'm going to have people tell me what I should do or not do with my body.
There you go. It's uncomfortable. I mean, let's face it, it is uncomfortable. And I know there was a time I went to a restaurant and my tuck started to untuck.
Mhm.
And as soon as I walked in the restaurant, you could see there were two guys, and they actually were gay. And you saw them looking at my crotch and like laughing, you know. And so I got angry. I was like, oh, this is what you want anyway. You two are
Gay
gay.
men are trained to look at crotches.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that's the reason why we're doing this show, right?
Yes.
To educate our family, to educate LGBTQ folks, our allies as a whole, to learn more about the trans community, to respect the trans community, to be inclusive and to be respectful. At TRANSlation, we examine what the trans community as people experience in our world. This next segment is called First Impressions of Trans People, What We Face. This week, the parenting website for dads, Fatherly, gives tips on what to do if you think your kid is gay or transgender. Did your parents try and talk to you about sexuality before you came out and or transitioned? Is there anything you feel they could have done or said to help you? Or is there anything they did correctly? Misty, we're going to start with you.
So my family did it completely wrong. When I came out, I was kicked out of my family. My mother literally told me, when you come back to Jesus, you can come back home. So, but I do get, in my job now at SunServe, I do get a lot of parents that call me, I think my kid is transgender, I think my kid is this, what can I do? And what I tell them is, do not ask straight up, are you gay? Because if your child is not ready to come out as gay, they're going to deny it. Do not ask, are you transgender? Because your child will deny that because they're not ready to come out. But what they can do is watch LGBTQ movies and show support. Oh my goodness, those two boys are holding hands. I think that's so beautiful. Or a show about transgender people and be like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. Like Pose or something. And show your admiration and let your child come out when they're ready.
It's important. Parents out there, are you listening? Camille, tell us about what we face.
It's so ironic that this is going on because someone felt the need to pop back up out of a very long time, and I will not cry. I will not. I tell myself this all week. And tell me the reason why they lacked talking to me. Y'all just called me strong.
You are.
Because of my lifestyle. And but they were apologizing. I don't feel the need to accept the apology.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone would wait so long to reach out to you because of rumor and gossip, I never introduced myself to you. So if this ever gets to your phone or to your laptop, hi, my name is Camille Lewis. And I'm happy being me.
Amen.
And who's ever watching this, you're not a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you don't need a lifeline, and family is not a lifeline. You are your own lifeline. Choose you first.
That's why we have our chosen families as well, right? We create the people that support us, that are around us, that care for us. Ariana, tell us about what we face.
Well, about we faces and with my family, when I'm trying to, they identify me, they see something wrong on me and they take me to the doctor. But the doctor in my country was not educated. Something happened like Jazz. They take to the very early age, they take to the doctor, but that happened opposite of my country because the doctor take to my mother, put testosterone hormones on me when I was child, and that was very difficult situation for me. But thanks God I have my auntie, and she was nurse, and she say to my father and my mother, don't give me testosterone, I'm waiting until be in the puberty or something to see what's going on. So I think I have all the time I have the support of my family, and I think it's crucial. But is this program. If you don't have the support of your family, you have many people as a community, you can come in and you can feel welcome, and we can go to the process together and you don't have to be scared about nothing.
Rajee, it's your turn.
Wow. Well, I grew up in a time where I think a lot of families just didn't talk about sex. my parents, my father, and my mother, it was not a topic that we discussed. And I think that was a sign of the times, let alone me being gay or transgender. I was terrified to even, share that with my family. Meanwhile, I'm being like bullied like crazy. And I would always be scared to go home and talk about what was happening in school because I knew the next question is, well, what are the kids saying? Like, what are they, and they were calling me gay, they were calling me faggot. And I didn't have any of those discussions. I ended up actually having to leave home because, I got out of high school and I started becoming more of who I am. And my father had a very hard time with that. Very, very hard time. And someone had to go and I was going to be the one to go. It was like, if he can't follow my rules and be the way I want him to be, he needs to get the hell out. My mom, it was like the pink elephant in the room. She was like, didn't understand it, didn't accept it, but I always felt like she was in my corner and she had my back. So it's been a mixed bag. And even today, I have a lot of family that love and support me, but I have family that don't want to be bothered with me because I'm trans. Thankfully, before my dad passed away, we had our full circle moment. So he kind of came around, but it's a really difficult thing. And I would say that to parents, this is my suggestion, my mom lost a son, but she still has me.
Yeah.
And that is the hardcore reality of it. A lot of trans people, and especially trans youth, they want to commit suicide because they're not accepted. And so I would say to any parent, choose love first. Choose the love of your child first. You'll still have a child, they'll still be here. It means the world.
And we'll close out this segment with you, Shay.
I want to echo that sentiment of love. I think it's so, so important. We don't stop being your child just because of who we are and how we are. And that fundamentally is the most important part of this conversation, that, get educated, do the research, but kids are watching. So what you say when you think we're not looking or we're not listening, or when you see something on television that maybe you're not comfortable with, your reaction to that is what your kids are watching. Your reaction to that is how they're forming, okay, my parent just said this, there's no way I could possibly be that thing they're reviled by on television. So be open, be curious, love your children. I grew up in a very supportive household, but it took me 34 years to come out as trans. And so not everyone's journey is the same. We can live in a loving, supportive household, and still it can take us decades to finally live our authentic lives.
So up next, this is our trans issue of the week. Each week, we will focus on what we think the entire trans community is talking about. Last week, we discussed Laurel Hubbard being the first transgender woman to qualify for the Olympics. Piers Morgan and others are using her to start debates on what it means to be a woman. So our translation issue of the week is, a transgender weightlifter's Olympic dream has sparked an existential debate about what it means to be female. It's a lot to take in,
It's a lot to take in. And I when we were doing the run through for this show, I was getting really angry, and I was thinking to myself, you know what, this is, every week we do this show, we want to raise the voices of our community, we want to talk about the stories that matter in the trans community, and I'm grateful that we do that. Part of it, though, is in some ways exhausting. It breaks you down. And what I have to take away from that is the more and more visible we are, and the more and more we piss people off or bother them, or somehow they become the subject matter expert about who we are and how we live our lives, in some way that's breaking down the barriers to our lives and who we are in the mainstream conversation. And so as frustrating as it can be, and to watch people speculate over, is she a female? Is she not female? Yeah. Let her lift the damn weight and let her just continue to be the star athlete that she is. I think there's a part of this that just becomes, it makes you want to scream. Yeah. And for someone who's training their entire life to have that moment overshadowed by, well, No,
Yeah.
we can't let her, in the Olympics because she's not a real woman or she's too much of a man or let's do this, let's do that.
And people, they don't understand what is the situation about our feelings and how we are feeling or how we presenting to the community or to the society, right? Because it's like the same. All transgender, we are not the same people. We are not have the same personality. One girl want to go to the Olympics and want to be a sport. Other girl want to go to the beauty pageants.
Yes.
Other girl have to be of the politics. And nothing is wrong because all the space is for everybody. So I think we have to cover all the spaces and the sports. I respect because I'm never can be. I think in my life I can never be Olympic sport, right? And that, but I'm admiring her and respect her, and I think that is so terrible about your comment when people they expecting about a woman.
So my thing is, you're looking at one part of the body that's defining them as a woman, and that's their vagina. And the fact that they can give birth, that makes you a woman. And the fact that you can do this with your body. So what about women that are barren? That cannot produce.
Exactly.
So does that not make them a woman? Just because you all can give birth, just because you're cis and you can give birth to a child, that does not make you a woman. So you say, okay, since you can give birth, so does that make a dog a woman?
Exactly.
Or does that make it a pet?
Yeah.
So let's have a further conversation about this definition of a woman. A woman is a woman is a woman, however you define your own type of woman. There's an Asian woman, there's a Caucasian woman, there's a black woman, there's an Italian woman. There's all different type of women.
I gotta dare to say this. We trans people are like really in the media right now. I really feel, and I could be wrong, I might not be here to see it, here on the planet to see it. But I really think that the trans movement and we trans people are going to be the liberation for people on the planet.
I agree with
because, so many people walk around in like social prisons, not free to really be who they are. And we push the buttons over and over again. I feel, it's going to be a fight. This is going to take a while, but I think we're going to liberate people, the human race, to be free and be able to be who
and do you know how you get there? When we stop explaining and start educating. I don't explain bleep to no one when I'm in a room. I don't. I come into a store, I buy my garments, I buy whatever I want to buy. You look me up and down, I look you up and down. We're either going to give a compliment or a smile or a dirty stare, and we're going to keep pushing. That's the only thing that we're allowed to do. But as far as asking me who I am, what I am, and why am I in here, you're not going to do that.
Well, Camille, you know what I say? Me being in the supermarket is an act of activism.
And that's a woman. That's being a woman.
Exactly.
And in the fitness industry, there is still this dichotomy of race and race is part of it, but gender, and men should lift this and women should lift this, and the maximum reps for a woman is this, and so if you're a woman and not as strong as a man, you have to modify it this way. And I think what you're seeing too is this idea that it's so unfair that someone could grow up as a man and all of a sudden they say they're a woman and they're probably stronger than most women and now they can just beat everyone, and that's just total BS.
But if you x-ray her, she has a woman's brain. And these scientists and these doctors examined her like a petri dish. She had to expose all of her body to a room full of a lot of people to prove who and what she was. And they had to test her estrogen levels. They had to test her testosterone levels to prove that she was not lifting at a male capacity. She was lifting at a female capacity. I think she's turning the party, and I'm very proud of her.
And that's why this
proud of her.
education,
Keep pushing it.
That's why this education that you've all talked about in One Way, Shape, or Form is so important. Just to note, 100,000 people signed a petition so this woman could not participate in the Olympics.
Oh my God.
Right?
That is
That's how much
terrible.
we need this education.
That is terrible.
Next up, the mission of Translation is to give our beautiful trans community the voice they deserve. So this is our segment called What's on Your Mind. I'm going to ask each of the unique and diverse hosts to tell us what we should be thinking about this week. Here we go. Misty, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is Brazil. Right now, what's on my mind is
Brazil.
Jair Bolsonaro. He does have a competitor. And if you don't know who Jair Bolsonaro is, he is the Donald Trump of Brazil.
Yes.
He is extremely anti-LGBTQ. And if you don't know, Brazil, hate crimes, transgender murders have superseded all countries combined. The trans women that have died every single year in Brazil are numerous. They are grotesquely numerous. And Jair Bolsonaro is Trans people don't exist. This doesn't matter to me. But right now, a gay man, Eduardo Eduardo Leite, a very attractive gay man,
Very attractive.
just came out as gay this week, and he is running against Jair Bolsonaro. And I think that is massive. I think that is major. And to put yourself out there in such a Republican state, I applaud you. And if I was in your country, I would vote for you.
So we're going to tell all the Brazilians we know that have
vote.
family in Brazil to vote for Leite. Shay, what's on your mind?
What's on my mind is, I've said this before and I'll continue to say it.
How dare you?
Get to know me. To those 100,000 people that signed that petition, talk to me. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Get to know me as a person. Understand that I'm not trying to take your job. I'm not trying to take your spot at the Olympics, although I would like to go to the Olympics. You know, this is crucial to our community. We are human beings. Learn to respect and understand us, and we will show that towards you as well. Like, seriously, I'm a person. Pinch me. I'm real.
I'm real.
I'm real.
On that note, Rajee, what's on your mind?
Well, what's on my mind are the conservatives in this country. And recently I had a friend of mine comment about our panel and how like we pretty much lean to like the left most of the times, and that they're conservatives that do support our community. So I got to thinking on that, and I remember when I went to Tallahassee, to the Capitol, state Capitol, with Tony, you, and Ariana, and all of the lawmakers that met with us were Democrats, and they were liberal. And I found that very interesting. I was like, wow, the Republicans aren't even agreeing to meet with us. And to me, that was very telling. But I would love to hear from the conservatives out there that do support our community, because, you know, well, I'd like to see. I'd like to see if they do, you know, because it's one thing to say, like, you know, and my friend is a very intelligent individual, and he made the comment. He says, you know, there are conservatives that do support your community. So I want to hear from the conservatives that will openly admit to supporting our community.
That's the hard part, Rajee. Getting them to openly admit, because most of it happens behind closed doors.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Ariana, what's on your mind?
Oh, what is in my mind? Well, actually, I think in my mind is something what we're going to talking in the next segment about the beauty pageants, about the transgender people and the beauty pageants. And I think that is amazing visibility and leadership for transgender individuals. In my organization or in my work, we try to empower transgender women of color and developing leadership and that. Beauty pageant contest. So that is so amazing, and that is in my mind. I want to be. That's what I come in with. I want my crown.
With your beauty pageant.
I want my crown.
Camille, what's on your mind?
Pinch yourself. If you can feel it, you're alive, and you have purpose. And whatever you're doing, continue to do it and be great at it. And to pull in the last question that was posed, my mother, she did it right. She told me whatever I choose to be the best at it. And I feel I am the best damn Black trans woman of trans experience ever. And if my mommy ever sees this, I love you and thank you for being everything to me. And I just pinch myself. I have purpose. I have reason. And I'm going to continue to be the best person I can be.
Yes.
That's what's on my mind.
I'm not crying, you're crying. Up next, we are going to do a lightning round of some of the trans topics in the news. We call this segment Trans, Pop, and Fresh. So we are going to tell you a headline in the news this week and discuss it. But there's a twist. We only get to discuss it for 1 minute. Everyone understand?
Got
1 minute, ladies.
No English.
1 minute.
No English. As transgender women slowly gain acceptance, they are joining more and more activities generally restricted to cisgender women, like the Miss USA pageant. Watch this.
And then there were two. Once again, the role of the first runner-up is very important. If for any reason Miss Nevada USA cannot compete for reign or wins the title of Miss USA, then the first runner-up will assume the title. Okay, everybody. The first runner-up is Centennial Hills. once again to everyone in our audience. Good night and blessings.
And kudos to that rainbow dress.
Oh, it's
Right.
gorgeous.
Love it.
Gorgeous.
So, Trans Pop and Fresh headline: Miss Nevada to make history as first ever openly trans Miss USA contestant.
Congratulations to Nevada for being open and allowing a trans person to be themselves authentically on that platform, on that major platform. So I don't think have anyone heard any backlash or anything about that?
I haven't.
Like,
all
like,
that I'm
mimics
hearing
the
is really
Olympic
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
Like no great.
petition.
So beautiful.
Trans is
I'm
beautiful.
for it.
What
Trans is
I
beautiful.
love from the video, what we saw is the action and the how they feeling the other contestants.
Right.
She won.
Mhm.
That's
You
what I
can
was looking
see
for. Right.
They were
really,
rooting for her.
really,
yeah.
yes, they're very happy
Yeah,
for her. And
were.
also, I am give the whole kudos to Cataluna because she pursued her dreams for many years. She's a beauty girl, a beauty pageant girl, and now watching with Nevada and Miss USA and watching with Miss USA and Miss Universe in December because going to be in Costa Rica.
We're all going to be
Ooh,
watching together.
she's gonna make a statement.
Yes. Disney has slowly been evolving on issues like gay characters and binary genders.
Yes.
After decades of starting theme park fireworks with ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, they have changed the introduction to be more inclusive. Watch this.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dreamers of all ages. In just a few minutes, the Magic Kingdom invites you to enjoy our nighttime spectacular, Happily Ever After. Good evening, dreamers of all ages. In just a few minutes, the Magic Kingdom invites you to enjoy our nighttime spectacular, Happily Ever After.
So, Trans Pop and Fresh headline: Disney World, Disneyland drop boys and girls reference. What do we think about this?
Didn't I
ladies?
tell you we're changing the world?
We
Yes,
are.
Didn't I
all
tell you?
all
Okay.
dreamers of all
Little
ages.
by little.
All dreamers of all ages. I love it.
I
love
love
it.
it.
I love it.
I think this is beautiful, but I think haters are always going to hate.
Always.
And right now, the haters are super mad. But what's funny is this is such a discreet way of saying all dreamers, all people, all humans. It's not like they said, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between, all genderqueer,
lot of people say that
non-binary.
too.
Like they didn't slam the trans in your face. They just discreetly pulled out the gender.
All
And it was
dreamers.
beautiful, and I don't understand why people are hating.
And it was done without any fanfare. This
No
didn't.
press
There wasn't a
release,
press
no
release.
website.
Yes,
It wasn't
Right.
they
like a
just
media
said it. They
forum.
gave it
It
to
just
you, and
happened.
like, yep.
Just stick it in.
Stick it in.
On that note, India is known for not being inclusive of the LGBTQ plus community. Now, a series of shelters in Chennai is set to help those who are most marginalized. So, Trans Pop and Fresh headline: Home for transgender persons opened in India.
Okay, so I gotta speak on this, okay? Because, you know, I'm multiracial, but my father was 100% of South Asian descent, so Indian. It's interesting. The Indian culture is it's almost like a oxymoron, because I call it like trans people are holy and precious in one regard, and then they're looked at pariahs in another regard. There is a Hindu god that turned into a woman for a certain amount of time. So a lot of like the Hindus in India, they will have a transsexual come and bless when a baby's born.
The Hijras.
Yes, the Hijras. Yeah, they'll have that. They'll have like a transsexual come to bless the wedding, but then they're living on the fringes of society in poverty. So I'm so happy to hear this story because the government is doing something about it.
On the day before Easter, about 50 transgender individuals from the parish of Reverend Andrea Cannocchia were invited by the Pope to get their COVID-19 vaccines at the Vatican. So, Trans Pop and Fresh headline: At Easter, Pope Francis invited transgender group to Vatican to receive COVID-19 vaccine. What do we think about this, ladies?
He is walking in his calling. I love it. I love it. One of my favorite passages in the Bible is, with loving kindness have I drawn thee. And he's using that with loving kindness. He's drawing people. He's showing people, okay, I just got slapped with the Bible over there. that kind of hurt it, but he's using the Bible in another type of way that's more comforting. I was raised in a very Christian household, very like driven by the word. You know, you will go to church, you will be there every day of the week, that type of seriousness. And one thing my parents did not do, my grandparents, they did not beat us with the Bible. They introduced us, but they let them know he is the helm of this household and you will respect, but they didn't beat us and like drive it down our throat and make us scared of it. So I love it. Thank you, Pope.
Well, the Pope, like Disney, is doing this in a very subtle way. He invited these trans folks to get vaccinated. That was it. No big media tour, no major announcement.
Also, that's Bible. Everything does not have to be frontline what you did. So I love it. I love it.
He's doing what Jesus did.
Yeah.
He's reaching the marginalized community. He's going into every man's world. He's reaching the unreachable.
The just and the unjust.
I love it.
I love
that I have like my religious folks like right here. Yes. The White House said it would gather federal agencies in the coming weeks, including the Justice Department, Defense Department, and Department of Health and Human Services, to revise policies driving poverty, violence, and discrimination against transgender people. So Trans Pop and Fresh headline, White House to review interagency protections for transgender Americans.
Yes, let's continue to keep these interdepartment ideas flowing, policies flowing, information sharing. It's only going to help our representation when we can better understand from a hate crime perspective, from a criminal and protections and legislative perspective, from everything all around. I think it's just important everyone needs to be on the same page.
So my question is this a shut up or is this actual actions? That's what I want to know.
Am I saying it or am I doing it?
Yeah. Like for you all to put this in the headline, is this just something to say, well, we did it and we put forth an effort, or is it actual actions that's coming behind this?
Does anyone want to answer that?
Well, I think before I working in the field for many years, and also we just find funding in the HIV field or prevention field. And now when we saw these federal agencies, they open services or funding programs beside of the HIV as a housing, as a human trafficking, as a domestic violence. I think these the federal grants, they will be amazing for the transgender community. And that's the only thing is they can be more easy for the TRANSlator agency because we are very far to apply for those grants.
Okay.
Yeah, at the Center, we've been applying for federal grants from actually pretty much all of these agencies over the last several months.
Wow.
So to answer your question, I think they're starting to walk the walk. Is that what it is? Yes.
Yeah, walk the walk, talk the talk. Okay,
Absolutely.
good.
Yeah,
No
absolutely.
lip service.
And we'll keep you posted. We'll keep you posted.
No lip service. Wonderful, beautiful.
Well, that's it. Translation. This unique forum is a first ever experiment to bring the trans community voice forward. Whether the news, politics, healthcare, mental health, entertainment, and the countless other streams of the trans community and your lives, Translation will be here to explore it all, to talk about it, to laugh and to cry. We are in this together. You are not alone. We end tonight's show with what we call Translation Challenge, to simply help the trans community to have an opportunity to say goodnight to each other, to remind us how incredible the world of trans really is. So first, a goodnight from Misty Eyez.
Thank you for watching. Whoever you are, thank you. And whoever you are, look in the mirror and say, I am beautiful because you are. And an interesting fact I want to tell you really quick is the Native American culture identifies 5 genders: assigned male at birth and masculine, assigned male at birth and feminine, fully male, fully female, or what they call two-spirit, assigned female and masculine, and assigned female and female. Gender is a social construct, doing things that are gender confirming, masculine, getting the gym, feminine, getting our nails done. It's just a construct. Your brain is your brain. You are beautiful.
A good night from Ariana Lint.
Well, thank you so much for watching us. And let me tell you, if you come into this segment and you're watching the whole entire program, this invitation is for you to subscribe to our YouTube channel to have notification about this program, because if you already watch this program, are you ready watch? You ready to watch the next programs coming up? Good night.
Come back for more.
Too much English.
And now a good night from Camille Lewis.
Allow my tears that I cry with my own BS to be a beacon of light for you. I stand as a leader for a reason, and I share my story for a reason. So learn from me and remember what I said. You're not a contestant on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and family is not a lifeline. You don't need it. Build your camp of people that are truly and honestly and unapologetically for you. Good night.
A good night from Rajee Narinesingh.
Well, I just want to say to everyone out there watching, transgender people and everyone else for that matter, if you are in a place that you're unhappy about in your life, whatever it may be, know that I've been there many times, and I'm still struggling in many ways. I feel that I was able to take my situation and make lemonade or lemon meringue pie out of lemons. But there's still, I'm still a work in progress. And so what I want to say to you all, I'm speaking from experience, tap into whatever your faith is, whatever that might be, whatever it is. Tap into that, because when you have a mustard seed of faith, you have life to get to tomorrow. And so that is so important. And when you see someone that's doing well, instead of being envious and jealous, use them as inspiration for your life. Say to yourself, if it can happen to them, it can happen to me. And so I just want to encourage everyone out there, you're going through hard times, hold on, have faith. Good night. Love, peace, and blessings.
And finally, a good night from Schaffer Zaret.
So the roads that brought us to this table are all different. We share different experiences with each other, highs and lows, but no matter the road you're on as well, you'll always have a seat at this table. We love you, and this is an amazing moment for us to connect and know that you're not alone. Good night.
Well, that's it. And a special good night from Ariana Center, the sponsors of Translation.
We need your help to support this broadcast. We invite you to reach out to sponsor, like, share this amazing show. Are you going to help the trans community?
Hey, L's, G's, B's, and Q's, are you going to support your T's? If you believe trans rights are human rights, then Translation is for you.
Share this broadcast, talk about it, like it, and tell the entire LGBT community and our allies there is something new.
Fox News cannot be the only voice. Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham cannot be the ones who define us. The trans community deserves more.
We hope you agree. If you do, we will see you every Thursday night at 9 p.m. providing Translation. Good night.
Good night.
Namaste.